Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Thank you so much for tuning in. My intention with this video is to go into a little flow and potentially do an energy update at the end. So if you haven't seen these videos before, welcome back if you have. My intention is unity and oneness and the highest levels of love light. So as we allow ourselves to unfold into this next chapter, we already recognize that we are already in this next chapter. For the next chapter has been unfolding all around us, for we have been co-creating together this particular chapter of our reality that we are now walking into, yet we are already encased within. And so all is happening now. And while this can be confusing for some, we encourage everyone not to get discouraged by all of the information that is pouring in during these challenging times, for this is a period of reconfiguration, and we must figure out from the heart what fits and what no longer is worthy of our attention. As we allow ourselves to peel away from what it is that we have been stuck to, what it is that we have been stuck in, whatever it is that has held us, shuku, I'm going to do a little light language, shuku ye bewa at ishtuk une. As we allow ourselves to peel back from that which has been, we start to create what I'm hearing a new spin. We start to create a new fluidity. We start to create with a new pen. We begin to rewrite or write over or override the old programs that have been written. This allows us to co-create in a much more docile way. And we use the word docile as a play on words, for it is an idea of a peaceful, docile frequency. And there are those that are all fired up right now that wish to play with fire. And we remind everyone that playing with fire is exactly what it sounds like. Therefore, not everyone here is meant to play with that particular element. Some of us are the water holders, the water bearers. Some of us are the breath takers, the air takers, the caretakers that are allowing us to breathe and giving us an opportunity to feel into the space that we are weaving together. And there are some who are very connected to the earth. We would invite everyone listening, though, in this now moment, to connect with all of those elements, to not leave one out. For within this 4-element exchange, we begin to recognize the elements are for our higher vibrational accessibility. For without one, we cannot have the other in this particular reality. We must breathe, we must transmute and move through or fire certain things up within us. We must have water in all of our organs and drink water in order to survive. And yet we must also be on earth, feet on the ground, in order to be here in this now moment. And so we invite everyone to get back to the basics. And this is seemingly too simple. It seems too simple for all of the craziness that is going on around us. We feel as if we must get involved. We must go here, we must go there, and we must participate with particular stories that are actually in the process of dissipating. Yet the more we focus on them, the longer they stick around. It is not that we are suggesting to ignore what it is that is being found or the stories that are being circulated. Yet the circulation is losing its steam, it's losing its air, it's losing its fire, it's losing the push, for we are recognizing it is watered down. We are recognizing there's so much more yet to be found, or the way we like to describe it is to be remembered. And we are finding more and more that the stories that have been circulating, that have kept us interested in the past, are no longer relevant and have long since passed. We have long since passed them up. For many of us have up leveled to a certain extent, or to such an extent that those no longer hold our attention. We no longer wish to put our intent in recreating these old paradigms. So what can we do? We ask ourselves, how can we be of service? How is it that we are able to survive with what it is that we are witnessing falling apart in our lives, or in what we thought our lives were created around? And the answer is complicated, yet the most simple answer is to take a breath, to realize that in every moment of every day, as we interact with each other in a harmonious way, we provide support for us to then allow the energies that are coming up, bubbling up, coming in, to assist us to begin anew. So we invite those not to lament over long since bygones. We invite those to watch these particular stories pass by, for we are passing them by. We are moving up, and we are outplaying them. So we are being invited not to continually replay them, and to play with something new. So we are bonding in this way, the humans that are recognizing the deeper potential that we all have when we come together. We are being invited to bond together and to bond with the fabric of Earth, for Earth Mother is our co-creator. We must start to get back to our organic roots, our ability to organize from our root system. And this will increase our survival, our ability to feel into the greater survival of humanity. For this story is being circulated that we are losing this battle, if you wish to call it that. There's a circulation on stories that are being recreated that are connected to an inhospitable time in our DNA memory, we might call it, or an inhospitable time that is having a bleed through from one perspective and we are witnessing it around, unfolding around us, yet it is not unfolding, it is merely merging from one perspective, the old and the new. And so we are working towards a better view, a better, I'm being called to stop and talk about this for a minute. So essentially I'm seeing a bleed through, and I'll show you what that looks like. So it's hard for me to describe what it is when I see timelines, but I'm going to use my really advanced high-tech drawings. So I see time as a spiral. There's it says backside, front side. So let's say the pink one is us and the blue one is a different time, but they're so close that we're getting this kind of bleed through or merge. And it's almost like if you were to look at a parallel reality, and you guys, this is just what I see in meditation, or when I'm doing, meditation work. But if you look at, let's say, a parallel reality, just think of it as a ladder, and there's two rungs. I'm not even going to draw it. There's two rungs on a ladder. What I'm being shown is that the rungs are connected. We don't necessarily see the other side of the ladder, but we're having this, and this isn't exact, this is just a basic description of what it looks like. And essentially we're feeling that other rung or that other side. We're not seeing it, but it's connected. Everything is connected. And so what I'm being shown is what we're experiencing right now. Part of it can feel really wonky because it is attached to another timeline, which technically is another reality that many of us are actually here now. I don't want to use the word to correct, because that time or reality has already happened, because it's in the past. And let's use Atlantis for an example, okay? But we're here now, and we've all heard the term history repeats itself. It's repeating itself. However, it's not the same because we're not the same. Therefore, how we correspond is what I'm hearing. Co-respond, correspond. How we respond to it from the core, our signature frequency, and how the earth is responding to what it is that we're co-creating together is different than it was in this other dimension or other timeline or other version of reality. And so some people, so I'm being shown a couple things. When we get into the habit of doing the same thing over and over again, that is a groove. We get into this groove, or some people call it a rut, and it becomes a pattern. And sometimes we get so used to operating from that habit or pattern that we don't see any other way. So there's a lot of people that are operating from habitual patterns, thought patterns, reactions. They're listening to the same programs. The programs are running on the same juice that they were running on before. But there are a lot of people who have shifted and are no longer interested in those old running programs or running those old programs. And so theoretically, by us changing this now moment, it's having a ripple effect. Think of the ladder. It's actually affecting our past. And I know that sounds crazy, but this is how I see it in the ethers, or whatever we want to call when we go into meditation. I see these other dimensions or realities, perhaps even that I participated in. And it's almost like we're sending back a signal, like a star sends back this ping, and it enhances everything. So when the guides or teachers have said we're impacting everything or having a ripple effect on everything, we're impacting everything. So we are having an impact on, it's hard to explain in linearity because it's not linear. Now, it's not to say if some planet exploded, for example, that it's not going to now because we're changing. We've changed. But is it? I don't know. That's just, I like to play with these. I just got goosebumps. I mean, is it possible that the choices that we make now could have that much of an impact as a collective on our past, that maybe some of the things we participated in the past slightly shift? I mean, this is all just fun stuff to think about if we're going to go sci-fi for a moment, time travel. But I love the whole idea around science fiction, because we've proven that a lot of the science fiction isn't actually fiction after all. So these are just kind of things to think about when we start to go, well, I'm not making a huge impact, or nothing's really happening in my life. That's not true. Now, if we're still doing the same patterns over and over again, then yeah, it doesn't shift things very much because there's no change. Most of the time though, what I'm being called to share is that's a sign that we're in resistance, because we're going to feel a push, but sometimes we're in resistance to that change because it feels more uncomfortable to get out of that groove that we've been in. So kind of lost my went all over there, time travel and everything else. So practicality, let me just get back into flow, and then I'll do a second video on the energy update. So as we allow ourselves to reorganize our template structure, we begin to restructure that which it is that we are templating now. So we are forecasting, we're foretelling the future right now by the stories that we are telling, not only ourselves, but our future generations. What stories do we wish to perpetuate that maybe do not hold the same glue that they once held before, because we have changed our perspective or point of view? Yet we are also being called to recognize and reorganize that some of the stories that are being projected into this now moment, or injected in to our vocabulary are also not true. They are merely a mixture of fabrications created to qualify as real or important. For that which qualifies as real or important, that we give qualification to, that we quantify, that we give a feeling of value to, creates a pattern. It creates a hold, and it creates a movement and a mechanism in which more people can access them. So initially, it may seem like a positive thing to be involved in news stories about our reality that feel like change is in the works. Yet, where is this story really taking us? Can we look ahead to the future and see what types of programs these stories are programming or attempting to be programmed into our new reality? For even though many may not understand our true power as a human co-creative collective, with our intentional directive, with our focus and energy patterns that we create when we focus on a particular subject or story that we are looking to create, for these stories are being created for us to follow a pattern, to follow a particular paradigm or program that has or may have attachments to a particular old program or paradigm that we just were unaware of before. Okay, so I'm being called to play with this. Some of the programs have shifted, and we think that it's a sign of progress. So people are jumping on that bandwagon because they think it represents something. But if we were to project ourselves into the future by using our heart as the tool to say, is this really what we're being told it is? Is this really about freedom? Is this really about, all of that? Or is it there's something else here? And that's what we're being invited to ask ourselves, and not necessarily jump into the game, because this game is literally just that. It's being created for us to look over here, pay attention to this, believe in me, believe in this story, believe that this is the way of the future. When in reality, we're the ones creating the future. So yes, it could be. The more we play, the bigger game we create. So I'm also being shown that reference to timelines. So some of the stuff that's being introduced is an actual bleed through of a previous timeline, and we're recreating it in a slightly different variation. And some of us are being drawn to that particular reality or timeline because it feels right. It feels familiar. It feels like, yeah, I knew this was the way it was. But it's only because we're remembering, we're having those bleed throughs. Okay, like it's like the past life thing. If anybody's ever had somebody say, oh, well, you're afraid of the ocean because in a past life you drowned on a ship, and you know, so on and so forth. Well, that can be really valuable to know, so that we can go, yeah, I've always been afraid of the water and I didn't know why. And someone can do a reading for you, or you can do an Akashic record reading, or maybe in my case, I didn't have somebody tell me those things. I did have a couple of psychic readers and channelers who did give me information about my previous lifetimes. And it was because I was having dreams about this particular story, and I couldn't understand why I was dreaming about them, but I knew in my heart why, and they just gave me that validation. In addition to that, I had meditations that I had seen these visions of different lifetimes and different planets and different realities. And so I could easily be recreating my reality now because of mistakes, which that's not what they are, but I'm just using that as a term. And even term is a play on words. And of something or a time of something, it's within this term, I could easily say, well, because of my past life as a this, I'm going to do that in this lifetime too. But we're not doing it consciously. A lot of people are doing this subconsciously because they aren't aware that that's what they're doing. So what I'm talking about isn't just a past life, it's a past collective lifetime where many of us have lived this life, let's say in Atlantis or Lemuria or whatever. So we're bringing with us those habits, those patterns, those connection points, lines of energy, we'll call it, and we're threading them through in this reality. So how do we know that we're threading through something that's good for this next future, that we're not bringing up from the past that wasn't good in the past, but we're doing it out of feeling comfortable or feeling like, oh yeah, this feels familiar. So the only way that we can really recognize that and feel if it's right in this lifetime is by going into our heart, by using our discernment, by going into our heart space awareness to connect our brain and our heart. They call it heart coherence. You can look up heart math. You can look up Dan Winter's information on this. I think it's, gosh, fractal field, I thrive. I think the link is on my comment description below. I put on my description below lots of sites that you guys could check out if you feel called to. So if we are tuning in to this bleed through of this other timeline, some of us are recognizing that we don't want that timeline. We came here to balance out that previous timeline, and here we're watching it happen or unfold again. And that can create fear. That can raise our anxiety because we're seeing things that maybe we went through in another lifetime that didn't lead to a positive outcome. Now I'm hearing don't throw the baby out with the bathwater though. Just because that other timeline was negative from one perspective or didn't have a positive outcome doesn't mean that every single experience or interaction that was had in that particular reality was negative. So it's about us threading through the things that are helpful now, that can be utilized now as a resource that might be attached to our DNA or attached to our memories, that we can go, you know, I have this beautiful connection with, you know, I used water as an example from drowning, but let's say we were involved in some type of cataclysmic event. And this time around, let's say we're involved in research. Well, maybe the research that we do has more of an organic signature and it's made from the, with the intention of higher vibration and love or compassion and not based on power. I mean, look at nuclear energy as an example, right? So it's about, what I'm hearing is combining all of those elements in order to chart a new course that perhaps was left uncharted before because the actual timeline ran out. But it didn't, because here we are now and we're infinite. So that's the message for now. Take what resonates, and till the next video, namaste, in love and light. Thank you so much for watching and sharing these videos, and enjoy the rest of your day wherever that's leading you to. Try and connect outside if you can, as much as you can right now. This is the biggest message that's coming through over and over again. It's really important for so many reasons. Even if it seems unimportant, do it anyway, because there's something really big happening inside the earth and inside of us that requires us to connect with the earth in order to harness that energy. So in love and light, guys, namaste.